You've been feeling things speeding up, feeling more energized mentally, wanting to connect more, talk more, learn more. Get ready because Jupiter is about to ingress into Gemini, and we are going to dive into this video to learn more about this transit for the upcoming year. Hey everyone, it's Christine. Welcome back to this video on Jupiter in Gemini for 2024 to 2025. So by the time you get this video, either the day of or the day before, Jupiter will be entering Gemini on May 25th at 7:14 and 48 seconds in the evening Eastern Standard Time. So almost at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is going to be a season of our life, the next year, wherever Gemini is in your natal chart, whatever is being activated, of course, with your own planets and aspects they make, and of course transits and anything else that you incorporate. It's going to be a time to play more in life, to get curious, to inject more fun, to infuse more adventure and play, and to hone those forms of communication, of learning, of connecting, and a lot more. Let me know, I'd be interested, how many of you have been feeling this energy and what has it been like for you, especially in the week leading up to Jupiter's wrapping up in Taurus and about to enter into Gemini. I don't think I said that right, but we're going to go with it. I have been feeling a lot of mental stimulation, things speeding up. I feel like I'm talking fast. I'm jumbling and jumping and confusing my words, almost like I'm speaking ahead of time without completing my sentence. Let's jump into an overview of this transit. Jupiter is going to be ingressing into Gemini, an air and double-bodied or mutable sign. So it's a little bit wobbly here, and it's in its exile or detriment, which means it's not comfortable. The sign opposite Gemini is Sagittarius. So its planetary contrariety lies here, and as such, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. And so usually the signs opposing are those that are relating to its detriment or exile. So that's just the basic, simple understanding there. Second, this has to do with the alteration of light. Why Jupiter may be feeling a little bit wobbly and not performing its best, its most optimal in Gemini. Jupiter's about overcoming the darkness and rules over Sagittarius and Pisces, where we see the light start to increase during those respective times of the year. So light is all about assertiveness, power, authority, dominance. It's yang or masculine energy. With Mercury, on the other hand, we see a deconstruction of light, also construction. So it's a back and forth, hence the mutability or changeability, also of Gemini and Virgo. So Sagittarius, Pisces, Gemini, and Virgo comprise the double-bodied or mutable signs. So the cycle of deconstruction that tends to happen here with Mercury also deals with the light, from light to darkness. And there's a fluidity and dual nature that we tend to see inherent in Mercury or mercurial signs of Virgo and Gemini. The darkness gradually starts to take over. And it's almost as if, you know, when you see the sun setting, it starts going down and things begin to get dark. It's as if with Mercury, we start to descend into the material world, into matter, into fortune, into the underworld. And that is very much a representation of death. That's also very receptive energy. It's yin or feminine energy. So in terms of where Jupiter in Gemini can exact its power, it's going to be a little bit more wobbly here. I keep getting wobbly, as if Gemini is learning how to walk in heels and it's always worn those winged sandals. Kind of like Mercury, Hermes, who represents Mercury. So Jupiter magnifies, expands, grows. There's an overall sense of bringing coherence to order here. So here it may be difficult for Jupiter to do what it wants to do, to consolidate its power, and not necessarily authority, but the concentration or focus in some way here. Because in Gemini, it wants to be a little bit more diffuse and have that malleability, that fluidity, that changeability to be able to switch because of that symbolic alteration of light. So tapping into the mercurial significations, particularly with respect to where Gemini lies in your chart, it's going to elevate this expression here. And you can hear Jupiter and Gemini will be excited to explore, uncover new areas or territories, learn, experience, but for the sake of growing. It's almost that playful, childlike curiosity. You know, when children go out to play in the playground, they don't have an agenda. They do not create a plan or a schedule and say, okay, from 12 to 12:05, we're going to be on the monkey bars. From 12:06 to 12:10, the slide. They just go out and have fun, and they pay attention and they pivot. You know how sometimes you see kids on swings and all of a sudden, for some reason, they get bored. They've reached the maximum potential on the swing set. You see them running to another part of the playground, or they tell you at the end, I'm done, I'm tired, or I want ice cream, or I want food, or they play on the ground. That's Mercury. And Jupiter in Gemini, remember Mercury rules over Gemini, we're going to see some of this happen where you may feel excited to have the opportunity to explore so many things at once, to learn for the sake of learning, of expanding your mind, of gaining knowledge and skills. Jupiter characteristics and significations. Jupiter brings in optimism, generosity. Think about just kind of like a balloon blowing up, an expansive, outgoing, extroverted energy. We have grandiosity here, visions or visionary, adventures, learning and understanding, having fun, joy. Some say and coin Jupiter as a good luck transit, brings in love, pleasures, and simply fun. Some shadow aspects or perhaps lower expressions of Jupiter include overindulgence, overdoing it, or excess, overconfidence, higher expectations, laziness, losing focus of your energies. In other words, they tend to be dispersed, and this could mean taking on too much. Jupiter also has to do with justice, law, truth, morality, philosophy, spirituality, higher learning, or you could say education and wisdom. And so this is really about how you receive and create opportunities, because there's a healthy amount of taking leaps of faith here, of healthy risks, and going out and putting yourself out in different ways to receive these opportunities too. Gemini significations. Again, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So we're dealing with curious, especially when it comes to this air sign, curious, intellectual, youthful, childlike. It deals with communication as well, intelligence, a lot of open-mindedness and expansive mindsets, logical, mental, multifaceted, a lot of M's here, magical or dealing with magic and alchemy, analytical, creative, and there's a deception, but more so what Mercury or Hermes is mirroring to you. I always coin Gemini energy as bumblebee energy. And it's beautiful energy that has the ability to swiftly move, to pivot when they know something is done or when they have reached the perhaps maximum or the potential in that one area. And also because of that playfulness, that curiosity that's guiding you towards the next thing, to integrate, to learn, to understand. I feel like once you've learned what you could, that pivot to something else allows you to essentially keep going, to move on. So with Jupiter cycles, it's important to understand Jupiter orbits around the sun roughly every 12 years. It's about 11.6 years, but we can say roughly 11, 12 years. And so I mention this because it's going to be really helpful to take a look at past Jupiter and Gemini cycles to see what themes could possibly coming up. So, and some of you too are going to be experiencing your Jupiter return. If you are 11, 12 years old, 23, 24, 35, 36, 47, 48, 59, 60, 71, 72, 83, 84. And that represents a brand new Jupiter cycle in that particular area of life where Gemini lands. Some of you that are in between, if maybe you are 40, you are probably halfway through, because it usually initiates 35, 36, and then the new cycle 47, 48. So some of you may be in between cycles. You've just had a Jupiter return, you're starting it, or you're wrapping it up soon. So you may be feeling a lot of different energies about things wrapping up, things about the start, or that infusion of something new if a Jupiter return is coming. So in general, with Jupiter and Gemini, this is a new Jupiter cycle as we move through the zodiacal order and wheel of expansion, of learning, of growth, essentially new experiential and soul growth lessons in this area of life that's being highlighted. And here you are simply going towards higher fulfillment, contentment, perhaps satisfying your soul thirst for more growth, more learning, more lessons, but also here too, where to push some boundaries, where to take those healthy risks or leaps of faith, and where to reinvigorate your life and grow in new ways, because ultimately we're here to grow. Previous cycles of Jupiter in Gemini, 1941 to 1942, 1953 to 1954, 1965 to 1966, 1976 to 1978, 1988 to 1989, 2000 to 2001, 2012 to 2013, and 2024 till 2025. I will put up a chart somewhere here because I know it could get confusing when I'm reading it, and I also am going to put more specifically the months and the days. So you're going to get complete dates here because those matter as well. And I want to say this is absolutely fascinating when you take some time, no matter your age, to take a look during those years that I've mentioned, what has happened for you, because you may revisit some themes, especially if you are experiencing a Jupiter return, that things are closing out in that area of life. You could possibly get ideas of what can happen. And I want to share some personal, because I did that for myself and I was astounded. I'm like, shit, I didn't know this was really, really accurate for me. And I've never explored this. So in 1988, 1989, I was 6. I was born in 1982. And that was the year that I repeated kindergarten because I didn't speak English and I learned it in school, in that school system. That was also the year I traveled to Peru with my father, and it was the last time I saw my entire family together, particularly on my father's side. In 2000, 2001, so roughly 12 years later, 11, 12 years later, I was 18, I graduated high school. I started my bachelor's, and in between the years, I completed my master's. But within that year, I ended one form of schooling, initiated another, and I traveled out of the country to Brazil. In 2012 and 2013, I was 30. I completed and had found out about this award. I did my postdoc, and so I found out that I had been awarded this really big experience. I completed my final year of schooling, which was 12 years in total. Defended my dissertation, completed my doctorate, ended up traveling to Europe for most of that summer. And I want to say, to give you context, my Gemini is in the 9th house, Libra rising. All of my studies were and have always been inter and multidisciplinary, and I've always assumed a very multicultural, multidimensional facet. And I'm like, wow, this makes sense. 2024, 2025, I'm going deeper in my own astrological education and mentoring and tutoring in that section. I anticipate travel, but who knows? Because I've seen similar themes. So I say this all and share this because you're going to find similar themes, and it's going to be amazing to see what you can retrace. You may be finishing up. Again, it's going to depend on what area of life, but if it's in the 9th house, you may be finishing up or starting schooling or some form of study, travels, learning, connections, relationships, and more. I want to say too, for those that are fire and air signs, pay special attention to the planets or angles in Gemini or any fire or air signs, as this transit of Jupiter and Gemini will generally have positive effects, openings in general, and provide opportunities for these placements. But I think for everyone, I don't like to say something is good or bad, but there'll be more benefic, I feel, relevance here for Gemini placement, fire or air signs as well, planets or angles. Let's get into the main themes, and these are comprehensive. Some of them I channeled, some specifics. And remember, everyone has a different area of life being activated. So that's why looking back at the cycles can really provide a lot of information. The first theme that I feel is going to have a resurgence when Jupiter ingresses into Gemini for the next year is DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly, I'll say, in the United States. That's the spectrum and the perspective I'm coming from. I kept seeing this. I've seen and met with a lot of Geminis who work in the spaces, but we've also seen a lot of tumultuous changes, especially in legislation and in lower levels in the United States and state levels, with changes in programs and curriculums at all levels of schooling, particularly higher education, but also local. And we have Jupiter, which tends to relate to higher education, higher knowledge, university systems, and Gemini, too, because it's ruled by Mercury, which tends to also focus on primary education and I would say K to 12. So I feel like there's going to be a resurgence, a reintroduction of DEI in a very different way, perhaps integrating a more holistic or expansive definition, or changing something in some way to allow it to resurge, to come back. I feel like the destruction, actually, of many programs and the contentious efforts around trying to destroy many of these programs, I would say organizations, curriculum, and many other things associated with DEI have really affected those that work there, because obviously many people lost their jobs. Many people are like, what do we do? We've seen a lot of consultants, etc. And so I do feel this area, we're seeing a lot of people going on their own, focusing on different levels of analyses or systems. DEI systems change is a big one. Some people are focusing more on meso-level change or individual change. And I've seen this where some other folks, maybe in therapy or counseling in different industries, are also integrating DEI into what they do. So it's a co-collaborative process, and it's an almost, an accompaniment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you work in DEI, what have you been feeling? What have you been scoping out? It'll be interesting to see what comes up. Next, what we can expect when Jupiter enters Gemini, learning. Big key theme here, both with Jupiter and naturally Gemini, ruled by Mercury. Learning. Learning particularly skills, amassing knowledge in different ways that are more practical and hands-on. And I kept getting get your curiosity on here. This is going to offer a buffet, if you will, of opportunities to taste test, to explore, to see what works, to see what's guiding you in that childlike essence and interest. You know, when children want to try something, they do it. And if they don't like it, they don't do it again. Most of the time. If your parents force you, that's a whole nother story. And I feel like this is going to give you the opportunity to follow your interests, follow your senses, what's calling to you. Take a course. It doesn't have to be with Gemini. It doesn't have to be necessarily a constricted formal education that you have to put yourself in or tie yourself in with some level of commitment, and then you feel stuck. Feel like with Jupiter and Gemini, it's going to be taking more informal courses, maybe certifications. You could have an opt-out clause or an opportunity to exit if you don't like within a certain time frame. I feel like workshops, maybe, you know, courses like Coursera, Skillshare, Udemy, even courses people offer on YouTube, paid and unpaid. Those types of opportunities, they're going to allow people to gain skill sets, most of all, apply them, use them, integrate them into their work, business, or whatever it is they do, and start capitalizing on it, start using it. It's not just gaining skills for wisdom, kind of in a more intellectual, academic style, where some people may be pursuing higher degrees for a variety of reasons. A lot of the reasons why people pursue PhDs, for example, is because they love the intellectual stimulation, the conversation, the research, and so much more. But this is also doing more in a different way. And I feel like because we have Jupiter and Gemini, it could be doing both too. So you could see people in academia, or if you're working in higher education, also seeking out other alternative or complementary skill sets through informal or different types of educational settings. Like taking a class at the library. Libraries offer free resources, a lot of free events for the community, recreation centers. What is it? Calendar of events that the county, the community, the city, the state, the country, they hold. It depends on the geographic unit. Those are the types of learning opportunities I feel that are going to come in hand. I also feel, which I'll get to in a sec, learning through connections and simply by engaging with others is going to be one way we're going to impart as well. It's also time to explore these options. And again, with the Gemini, it's not about committing yourself, especially if you are wondering what would it be like to pursue this path, or simply to learn more about how to use this tool or this device. Or, I'm interested in crystals. What would it be like if I took a workshop? That's the type of mindset I feel like is going to come up, where you're going to taste test. I also got a lot of hands-on experiential and on-the-job training. And it reminds me back in high school. This was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I remember I took a course. It was called Dual Cooperative Learning, on-the-job training. And we essentially were able to leave high school early to go work. We applied the skills we learned. We read a lot of business books, made presentations, utilized real-life skill set and developed those. Public speaking, writing out different contracts, things like that we could use. And we were able to leave school early, work, and learn more in a different way. And it was a very fascinating experience for me and several of my friends that were involved and classmates, because it allowed you to get a real life view, I would say, of the world. We were part of it. We were working. We were in it. We were responsible for making sure we came up with a timesheet, for example, that was very distinct and separate from the work itself. It was part of the scholastic requirement. We had to create it in a certain way, etc. So it gave us a taste of the real life world, I should say. And I feel like some of the learning you may do, whether you're still in high school, whether you are in college, whether you're not in school, it doesn't matter what phase of your life, it may give you an idea of what it would be like. Especially when we have, again, everything is going to move and it's going to change depending on where these signs land in your chart when we have the next Jupiter transit. Wisdom is also another theme that's coming up with Jupiter in Gemini. And I feel like it's going to very much connect to the knowledge we learn and what it is we're learning in general. I kept getting and channeling messages around the expansion of metaphysical and earthly matters. So Jupiter, there is a spiritual connotation here. And I feel like there's going to be an expansion in our spirituality too, and learning more what it means. Where can we connect to people that share similar mindsets or similar values or similar paths or interests? We may congregate over similar interests, whether it's over banking, mathematics, communication, commerce, travel, mass social media, or divination, occult, esoteric, metaphysical topics. And I feel like this is also going to allow us to impart wisdom that we receive maybe from our own spiritual team, from our guides, but also from others that we share. So I feel like wisdom and knowledge are very much inherent topics and themes with this transit that are coming up. Of course, higher education or any course or workshop, and I mentioned this, I feel it's more part of learning. Some folks are going to be going back to school. Maybe you are wanting to get a certain certification, a degree, or some type of acknowledgement related to a role, a title, or simply a personal goal. With Jupiter and Gemini, I feel like a lot of this has to do with personal satisfaction, contentment, especially intellectual, social, emotional engagement. There's a sense to want to learn, to get out, and to grow simply for growing. There might not be a purpose. But because Jupiter is involved, I do feel like some people will say, okay, it's time, I want to finish my degree, maybe get my GED if you dropped out of high school. Maybe you're finishing up your high school degree. Maybe it's been a while and you took a break from schooling and you really want to get back and you just want to finish it because it's a goal of yours. It may not be relevant to what you're doing. It doesn't matter. That's Gemini. I get a lot of just courses, teaching popping up as well. So I feel like there's going to be opportunities for learning in many different ways. Alternative forms of education. I also see this popping up, and I felt like this has been fomenting. Homeschooling and the design of it. There are so many different programs involved. Virtual learning-based opportunities through nonprofits and other types of organizations that are tailored to specific needs, learning styles, and different populations and communities. Think neurodivergence. Or maybe you learn in a certain language, or you want to be taught in a certain method. I feel like this is going to become more prominent, especially with changes in school systems. mathematics, technology, accounting, business. Those are other themes coming up with regards to learning in general, as Mercury, I should say, rules over these themes. Teaching is going to be another one. So there could be, during this time, you may be feeling the strong pull to share what it is you've learned or what skills you've been learning, or you're going back to eventually share this. Maybe at the end of the transit, you will want to go into some type of teacher mode. And it could be, again, I feel like it could be something formal for some, where you enter a particular institution or organization, or for others, you are going to create avenues, spaces where you can share and teach others. So it could be through YouTube, through blogs. It could be through different informal gatherings, maybe libraries, recreation centers, creating your own meetup or Eventbrite, virtual or in person. There's a sense of sharing your knowledge. And I feel like this could come in the form of sharing a lot. You know, the people that say, I wear many hats, this is it. So if you're someone that has always resonated with being multi-dimensional, or interdisciplinary, multicultural, diverse, or someone that wears many hats, this is a transit that can allow you to consolidate some certain areas and to start sharing your wisdom, to start teaching others a particular skill set, and to also continue learning. So there's a lot of overlap here. Another theme, communication, naturally. I kept getting overall increased channels opening up. And I saw, when I was meditating, radio stations popping up where there are now more options to tune into what you want, which is interesting because most people don't listen to the traditional radios we used to have. And most cars, they don't have the tuner where you can, search for it. You just press the button. And so I feel like in this space, there's going to be ways, spaces, perhaps different circles that are going to open up for you that allow you to contribute your way of communicating, because everyone has different ways of communicating. And sometimes people feel fearful in sharing who they are, sharing their thoughts, and simply being in some frame or a spotlight or being seen because they may communicate differently. There's going to be a rapidity in absorption, retention, and processing of information. There may be so much you may feel inundated with information during this transit and may want to consume. I kept getting a cautionary note here of overconsumption. You know, when you go on YouTube or any social media platform of your choice, your intention is to maybe look at a recipe or one video someone sent to you of an animal or something funny. 5 hours later, you're still on there and you're completely on a different topic. Be really careful, because I feel like this is going to be something that may happen. You may all of a sudden be on a video, they suggest something, you go to that, another suggestion, and it's like a rabbit hole energy. So be careful of overconsumption here of social media, of media in general, literature, anything written in any form, and any digital stuff, because I feel like that can overwhelm you, that can stress you out, particularly since we're dealing with the mental mind area with Jupiter and Gemini. And meditation is going to come in handy here, allowing yourself mental breaks. So mental self-care is going to be key here. I'm not saying to drop the other forms of self-care. During Jupiter and Gemini, it's important to acknowledge what in particular may be coming up or perhaps dinging at you that's stressing you out. If you're someone that tends to overconsume information, you may want to set limits, boundaries, or certain times, or simply get rid of these during the transit and focus on what it is you want to do, or give yourself, again, certain spaces and time to do that. Mentally, this also goes with learning too. So again, a lot of overlap. I feel like there's going to be greater interest in positive psychology, again, positive thinking, manifestation. So matching frequencies to how you're feeling, emotional processing, talking about things more. So there could be a renewed interest for some folks in psychotherapy, traditional talk therapy, but also different forms because they have different modalities. Dialectical behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, other somatic practices, EMDR, acceptance commitment therapy. There's so many types. And I feel like this is one way people can start working on limiting beliefs, perhaps changing, enhancing cognitive abilities, and anything in that area. I feel like folks are going to be really working on, there's something called, what is it called? There's something, neuro-linguistic programming is something that came through as well. So you may be feeling overall sense of trying to clean up out here. Maybe change the way you're thinking. Work more on expressing yourself in new ways. So if you're someone that usually writes, maybe talk, or vice versa, or connect with people to talk through things. Because I feel like this is going to not only provide positive ramifications in these areas, but it's going to do it quite quickly. So your thoughts may manifest faster. What you're thinking, all of a sudden you may see signs. It's been happening to me this week where I think of something and I see it right away, or I get the message right away. So I've been very conscious myself to focus more on micro joys. And I was doing this with a friend where I suggested, how about we share some micro joys, some joyful moments, moments of beauty, anything we see. And when you speak it, it feels very differently than when you write it. I struggled a bit with writing gratitude, and I could write endlessly, but she brought up an amazing point. And I loved it because so many people tend to do this with accountability partners. They'll exchange a gratitude list or simply connect with others to say, this is what I'm grateful for. But when you say it, you start feeling it. So a lot of different things happening in this area with mine. So if you are starting to see things in different ways, because the energy is just shifting and moving very quickly with Gemini, this is one area I feel will have a potentially big impact on all the others, is working on mindset, limiting beliefs, your thoughts, and simply taking a day at a time. Writing, another form of communication. I feel like this is going to expand, so we may see more people putting themselves out there, getting their creative groove on, joining different writing groups, support groups. They have different challenges. The genre of writing is huge. I'm not an expert by any means, but I feel like there's going to be different ways people express themselves, especially with Gemini. I see a lot of writing groups being formed. I also see kind of like poetry slams when people get together and they have fun, or they integrate it in some joyful, fun event where people can share their creative thoughts, but also connect and talk things through. I also feel like we're going to see the establishment of more blogs, or the integration of different forms of writing or content in new ways that is going to enhance what it is people do. So maybe adding more visuals, maybe adding or providing more takeaways in the form of writing, like packets, PDFs, journals. I feel like there's going to be an upgrade in this, and you may be feeling inspired too during this transit to get things down in writing. And it could be digital too, but in some ways start tracking, documenting any form of expression, whether it's journaling or simply drafts that lead to a book or anything like that. It's also going to be a one way to get a lot of the mental stimulation out. Writing, speaking, getting the energy out and moving. Social media platforms. I see new ones popping up, changing, some defaulting. I heard defaulting, so maybe that means they're closing down or becoming more restricted or narrow. And there's going to be changes, and we've seen that with some platforms around. And some I'm not a part of, so I'm not aware, but I've heard of this from people and just different articles I've come across. And I strongly kept getting messages about changing how we engage to more in real life versus virtual connection, which is interesting because with the modern significations, obviously the ancient astrologers didn't deal with virtual communication at that time in that way. But I feel like more folks are going to want to get together in real life situations. So I see a resurgence of community groups, of maybe different leagues, associations, clubs, things like that, where people want to connect more and get away from just doing it digitally. But digital can serve as a part of that process to set up the logistics, to have RSVPs, to have the basic information ups, kind of like meetups where people can RSVP, but moving more in person. Languages are another thing. AI in particular is big and part of this. We saw Google Gemini and many other AI and similar technology coming out in ways that help us learn differently and construct language in a different way. I am not involved at all with AI, so folks may have more knowledge around this. I also feel like there's going to be an ease and easier process of learning languages in general. And I'm not just talking about languages like English, American Sign Language, French, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, Greek, Japanese. I'm not talking about any of those too. I mean, those are part of it, but I'm also talking about languages like music, computers, and psychic, which is another language in itself. Telepathy, and I'll get to that in a sec. I'll just say it now. Telepathy, clairaudience, and remote viewing. I strongly channeled that, and I created a separate channeled message. I kept getting that strongly. Huge, over and over, and I've had some people where this has popped up. So your psychic senses may pop up, strengthen, or you're simply noticing new ones that are coming in, particularly with telepathy, where you're able to communicate with others and you don't have to say a word and you just know. If you're with someone like a friend, you may get up all of a sudden and give them a glass of water or provide something or say something. And they're like, how did you know? And you're just like, I don't know, I just knew. And you just receive that information. I kept getting clairaudience too. And of course, any clair can come through. It's a form of communication and of language. Clairaudience as well. Extrasensory language, I'll say. You may be hearing things, attuning to a different frequency, kind of like dogs when you press certain buttons or vibrations, music, and even those beeper things to get their attention or to prevent them from going past a certain area. Dogs react to different frequencies. I feel like it's going to work that same way with humans, where now what many animals see, and I mentioned dogs because I have them, but what many animals are able to hear, sense, and see that we can't, humans are going to be more attuned during this time with Jupiter and Gemini. Remote viewing is another one. So, and these are just some. And these are the ones that I strongly kept receiving and seeing. Remote viewing, where you're able to tap into a particular location or an event, and you can simply, like remote viewing, like some computer technicians do when they have to fix their computer, they pop in no matter where they are. It's like that in a psychic way. And this is very much having to utilize your gifts in language and communication differently, and being able to receive information in different ways. And I also feel like it's simply a peek of what is to come in a few years, and obviously over many years going forward. The humans are learning how to communicate and embrace different modes that many others have for many years. I'm talking hundreds, thousands of years, but that haven't been always open. I feel like Jupiter and Gemini is going to allow people to embrace and say, you know what, it's okay to embrace extrasensory gifts, to know that I can communicate maybe with animals in different ways, children in particular. I sense a lot of children may start talking about this, may automatically know what you want or feel. There's a heightened sense here. Mercury also serves as a psychopomp between the earthly world and the underworld, and there's a bridge here. So Akashic records, anything past life or regressive, is also coming up, and I feel like there's going to be an ease during this time to travel between these two worlds, if you will, to get information, to assist us at this time. I feel like, because I kept seeing, I wrote it down here, I channeled coming back to the past. I kept seeing the opening of an unabridged source or collection of books and encyclopedias. And when I saw the encyclopedias, I was thinking, I haven't seen those in ages, because prior to the advent and the acceleration of the internet, encyclopedias were huge. We used to have our copy. Encyclopedias to look up things and to get reference materials, etc., and to consult. So I feel many folks are also going to, if there are any issues that are coming up, or even curiosity, because again, Jupiter in Gemini, sometimes you're curious and you're like, I really love chocolate, or have an aversion. I wonder why. You may want to travel and do an Akashic Records reading with someone that works in that area, or with yourself through hypnosis, through meditation as well. So I feel like many of these themes are going to come up. There's a renewed interest too in general spirituality. And I feel like it has to do with understanding, communication, receiving. Many of the themes I've mentioned, they're going to come in. In terms of speaking too, I want to say this is another theme that is going to be prominent, where you may feel a need to speak your truth more, to connect with others, to talk, to share through teaching, of course, speaking in front of others. Through increased conversation, I got intellectual coffee chats. You know, when you just grab a coffee with a friend and there is no agenda again. You are just there to talk about life, talk about whatever happens. I see that happening a lot. Connecting for mental stimulation. So some people may join specific groups just to talk more about that topic. Maybe it's computers, maybe it's a business, maybe it's money, wealth, or travel, commerce, mathematics. I kept seeing a lot of equations, so new forms of expressions with mathematics coming out. This could also be a good transit for any of you that have to take mathematics or learn or integrate or review to do that. Be careful of what you say to others too, because this could come back in the form of secrets spilling out. I kept seeing secrets, stuff coming out. With this energy, you may feel more inclined to talk. I feel like I'm just talking nonstop. I sometimes feel like a parrot. People could mimic you. So be careful what you say and to who you say that, because sometimes what you divulge to someone, in other words, what you share or impart with others, you may think it's innocent or they're not going to say anything. And others, for whatever reason, they may interpret it differently. So just caution with that. This is a great transit too for perfecting your speaking skills, or at least honoring how you speak and embracing that, connecting with other people. So some people may want to join, what are they, comedy troupes, acting, theater, type of organizations or clubs, classes that allow you to express yourself in some way in order to hone. It could be singing lessons, vocal lessons, speech therapy. I feel like all of that is coming into play, because I kept seeing people, when you're wanting to communicate, but you communicate differently. Maybe you have an accent and you want to change it, or you have trouble saying certain words, or you may stutter, or you may present things differently. And there's something about honing this and practicing and doing more of it. Imparting wisdom is another theme, and I mentioned that already. Travel, another theme here. Commerce, travel, movement of blocks, goods. And with countries, I feel like it'll generate or connect more to geographic boundaries, proximity. So you could think about trade, economic blocks. With people too, that's why I said I feel like a lot of people are going to connect more in person. You may all of a sudden feel a call. Yeah, if you have people that live far away that you love and care about, those aren't going to go away. They may become strengthened, and you may actually feel more concerted to do more of that, or have dedicated time to do that. But I feel like more people are going to explore in various distances. I saw long distance travel, short distance travel, and even travel simply within the mind, through learning, through reading, and in that way with others, local and also different expansive territories. So that can mean traveling, again, like I said, exploration, adventure, and simply using your own experiences to share with others. I think this is going to be key. And to me, it almost seems like with Jupiter and Gemini, we're getting on a roller coaster. It's a fun one, not the scary ones, not the ones that drop, not the ones that make you feel like you're going to throw up. It's the fun, calming one where you get to talk, have fun, and you can get off at different stations, and you get to learn more, dive deeper, share, and anything else. So I feel like with the travel, it's just as much about getting lost in it, whether it's getting lost in a good book or getting lost off the beaten path if you decided to take a road trip, or to travel to another country, or to simply explore a new aspect of your community. I saw arrows everywhere. So for me, this is Jupiterian also, which discusses adventures, and adventure can be anything. It could be going to a new thrift shop and searching for new things. There's a joy in that. That's very Gemini. I also feel Jupiterian in some sense, but with Gemini, it's going for the fun of it. So I feel like there's going to be adventures. Bucket lists are going to be huge. I haven't made a bucket list in a long time, and I felt called. I told a friend, I'm like, I want to make a bucket list this summer, and I was already getting a lot of ideas. You may already be feeling many of these things that I've talked about, and even other things, particularly as they pertain to your natal chart. You may be getting excited, doing things in a different way, wanting to learn and inject the infusion of fun, of joy, of feeling good. Transportation is another theme here, because Mercury rules transportation, cars, automobiles. and any of those bigger gadgets, as I call them, that move. So I feel like there's going to be more communal forms of transportation that are going to pop up. Carpooling may be renewed. Maybe different lines or specific trains, buses, things of that nature that are reserved for commuters of this hour, for this group. Companies and workplaces may also offer more stipends or opportunities to rideshare. Electrical bike scooters, you know those, I see a lot of kids, young kids do that. They have those scooters where one foot is on the scooter and the other is on the ground moving it. I could see skateboard too, but digital too. A lot of these different types of transportation coming back, where there's an essence of joy, of youth, but also of brotherhood, sisterhood, community. So I feel like there could be more reliance on these forms, particularly with the price of petrol, of gas, and even owning a car have been a little bit in flux. Many people may be looking for alternative forms. I also got smaller, buzzable, easier to get around modes of transportation. That can mean foot for some, but I definitely feel these other alternatives. Creation of new forms of mobility too. I kept seeing wheelchairs for pets, different forms of prosthetics, like new and improved and enhanced that feel more comfortable, gel-like. You know, the neoprene, the scuba diving material, and in some mouse pads, it feels like jelly. I see this in some ergonomic equipment. I kept seeing that. So I feel like there's going to be new forms of mobility that are going to enhance and simply support humans and animals and living creatures. So prosthetics or prosthesis, where there's cushioned and it doesn't hurt as much. It's more flexible, it's movable, and it's comfort, which allows people to buzz around essentially, like that bumblebee energy I told you about. Finances. I feel like there could be a complete examination of finances here and how you use them, and the integration of allocating your finances in ways that are very different than what we normally think of when we think of budget. I do feel like there's going to be a rise of, during Jupiter in Gemini, of perhaps spending too much, but also being more conscious of it, like setting a budget and writing, going through the books. In other words, going through your accounting, your bank statements, etc., and trying to order something that's going to benefit you, particularly with 2nd and 8th house placements. But I feel in general, you could feel like you want to change up how it is you are using your money and allocate more of your resources or find ways to integrate, because your financial resources, I feel, could also tap into your time, because time is money as well. So I'll pop that in here too. You may feel during this time that you want to allocate more time for fun, for joy, for curiosity, for learning. So instead of potentially, especially with Jupiter and Gemini, if you are suddenly wanting to amass a lot of physical material resources like books, papers, things to download, to print, an alternative could be going to the library or borrowing it. So there's an examination here of how to integrate some of these other topics of learning that may mean gaining new possessions, but also up here in the mind, mental stimulation. I feel like that's going to change. Youth is another theme because Mercury rules over youth and also brings up significations around youthfulness. And I kept seeing a lot of inner child energy here, childlike curiosity and wonder and play. There is a lot of different, we could say, playgrounds for children. And we don't really see that a lot for adults. Of course, adults can go to playgrounds, but I always feel a little bit nervous, especially if it's just me, because my son is now older. I'm like, if I go alone and there's a lot of kids and there's no one else and it's just me playing, it's kind of weird. You know, you often think predators. So I feel like there's going to be more of a pull towards engaging in adult play, which can be, again, it's really all encompassing and very expansive here. It can mean going back and connecting to what you did as a child, what you enjoyed doing, maybe workbooks, coloring, writing. It could be playing with some type of technology or video game, maybe creating your own blog and talking about children or sharing your children. Something here I kept getting, and also being led with what comes up. For example, just recently, I've noticed a shift in the last week. I have felt so joyful in creating new recipes. I generally like to batch cook. And now I just feel excited and I'm cooking new things. I'm creative and finding things in my freezer and I'm just adding them and cooking them. And I'm just getting this spark to look at the world in that way. And it's shifting things a lot. It diffuses stress, it diffuses any overstimulation up here, because children, they don't think up here or keep that mind going. They go play, and it's very hard to play while you're thinking of your to-do list because you're free. It's like jumping on the trampoline. Could you imagine doing math in your head while you're jumping? I probably would fall off, and I would suspect most people would feel some type of imbalance. So I feel like this is an opportunity to join maybe sports leagues, connect with others. Rec centers are big, particularly if you are an older adult, younger adult, but any age. They have opportunities, fun things to do with others, and you may meet new friends. Mercury rules platonic relationships too. And so many of the attributes Gemini takes on are mercurial, obviously, because that's its ruler. So Jupiter and Gemini, you may see an expansion of your connections, which we are popping into now in relationships. Increased peopling, you all. If you feel like your world is getting busier, you're getting a lot more communication, messages, texts, emails, alerts, meeting new people, simply interacting with more people in your local neighborhood. All of a sudden, you're no longer going through the self-checkout. You're going through a regular cashier. This is all some of the embodiment of Jupiter and Gemini. Increased peopling. And again, cautious, because sometimes the energies, especially when they're vibrant, joyful, and the expression tends to be one that's, the frequency is simply higher. It's not someone that's dragging you down. You may get excited and want to have more of that. So just a caution for those, especially if you're energy sensitive. I kept seeing Bumblebee energy too, and I always see that with Gemini. I got Bumble BFF app. It's the app. I know it's a dating app, but it's also an app too that connects you to friends. So the Bumblebee energy, obviously bumblebees, they signify working hard, being community, labor, and building. So some of you may find that you are regrouping, changing your communities, your friendships, your relationships, what you're a part of professionally and personally, and how you connect with people. So if you're someone that really hasn't gone out much, you may want to try different strategies. I kept seeing Bumble BFF, so maybe a virtual app, and there's so many other communities. I'm sure in your app store, in your phone or your computer, you can look up for virtual digital communities, also in person, because many of them do meet in person. I see a rise in groups that are meeting and doing things again. Networking is big. Geminis are fine-tuned for networking and skilled at this, and I feel like you may feel a renewed interest in networking in a way that's different for you. I've been getting a lot of messages about community, belonging, and the re-examination and reimagination of what community looks like. Most people think community, particularly with the Gemini energy, is many. But community may look one-on-one for you. And that's something that you may discover, because you may have one-on-one pods, as I call them, because that's something that I'm personally experiencing for myself and my style of connecting. So I say that because you may all of a sudden feel like, I don't like networking in those big groups or dating in those, what is it? I don't know what they're called. Dating, speed dating, or going out in big groups with people. I prefer smaller groups. So you may find naturally in what you enjoy doing and where your curiosity leads you, you connect to people one by one. So those pods create your form of networking. Community and belonging is another key here, where we may be asking ourselves with Jupiter and Gemini, what's out there? Who's out there? Can I grow in new ways in my relationships, in my communities, in my organizations? I suspect many folks too will want to get involved transnationally, but also locally with their own communities, kind of get to know it better. If you don't even know it, explore it and see how you can be involved, how you can connect. Because a lot of times what's interesting, what I've noticed is we look farther for things we may want that are already existing, but they're untapped. And so that may mean too, if you've already explored your own town or your own neighborhood, try a new one. take transportation or drive or walk a little bit further if you can, or explore a different area that you haven't that could expose you to simply fresh energies. In other words, new people, new resources, new things to do. There's a lot of newness, not just in terms of we're doing this for the first time, but adventures and allowing them to lead you to what is coming into your life or what's opening up for you. Alternative relationships here are big in Gemini. Again, not for everyone, but these are some themes collectively that I got. A redefinition of what love means to you. And I feel like folks, especially if you are asking yourself, what does love mean to me? What does it look like? Do I want to get into a romantic relationship? Do I want to date? Do I want to marry? Union type of questions. I feel like there's going to be a redefinition of love. Everyone of all ages. Because there's so much pressure, especially on young women, but there's so much pressure on having to find a partner, think that your life depends on someone, get married and do all of that. And there's been big shifts in society that we're going to continue seeing and across generations and age groups. I feel like here, folks that may be looking for a romantic sense or folks that have said, I don't want to do that, there's a redefining of love and what it means. And I kept seeing Golden Girls. So you know the Golden Girls was a TV show in the United States in the 80s, early 90s, and it was remade in other languages around the world. And these were older adults. There were 4 women: Dorothy, Blanche, Rose. Oh my gosh, I forgot the mom's name. Dorothy's mother. Sylvia? I forgot her name, but 4 of them. 3 women and the mother of one of the women. So 4 women. And they lived together. They became roommates. And I kept seeing the love that we may be seeking may not be in that traditional sense that people think, especially if you feel like you have to go into a relationship with another person in a romantic way, or you simply want to connect but on a deeper level. I feel like this type of relationship is going to pop up and people are going to start sensing, you know what, I really love connecting more to my friends, and this is the type of love I want to pursue. Which again, just because I say that doesn't mean there has to be anything sexual or romantic involved. At the same time, for some folks, this transit may open up 2 themes around polyamory, where you may define who you are. How do I love? Who do I love? What does it mean? What does love mean? There may be an ambiguous or undefined notion here where you're examining your own relationship to love, past relationships. What do you want? How do you want to feel? This could be also themes around sexual and gender identities, especially we've seen with non-binary and gender fluidity. I feel like there's a re-examination for some people around this. Finally, I mentioned this already around social communities or groups, redefining what community looks like. It doesn't have to look like a lot of people all at once. It could be a pod of maybe you and another, or it could be something completely different. And I think that's the energy here that Gemini can provide all of us, where we are able to essentially explore what is feeling good for us, where we can connect to people in new ways, particularly socially and intellectually, but also where we can learn skills that can contribute in meaningful ways to ourselves, to these connections and relationships in society. So another theme within the relationship umbrella are changes related to platonic friendships. And with Jupiter and Gemini, I feel like generally there's going to be an expansion of. So some folks may join communities that entail getting to know new people, meet new people, befriend new people, or simply learn, engage, and interact from those moments. But I also feel like there's going to be changes because with Jupiter and Gemini, I feel like there's an expression of wanting to learn in a different way or learn something new or elevate your soul growth in some way, which could mean leaving behind some friends or groups, changing, no longer having things in common. Some people don't want to expand. Some people don't want to grow or follow that path, or they're not ready to embrace that level of maybe development in their life for whatever reason. I feel like there's going to be a mix-up in this. Also, with connecting deeper in terms of a cause or some type of maybe theme or community-oriented topic is going to be key. I kept getting brotherhood, sisterhood. So coming together, maybe over coffee to decompress, or if the way of engaging is the way of engaging is focused on some type of self-care, some type of connection or bridge building, or some theme or topic, kind of like astrology 101, or people that like to work too much or burn out. I feel like those types of groups are going to be fomenting, and you may be seeking them out already, depending on your season of life, what's of concern for you, what you want to prioritize in the next, you could say, coming Jupiter cycle, or what you're feeling called to do wherever Jupiter is in your natal chart. I got something strongly about neurodivergence too with relationships, and I feel like there's going to be changes in perhaps identifying more who you are, learning who you are, how you process what you know. And this could be in regards to self. This could be realizing and acknowledging and embracing your way of being, whether it's in friendships, the style of learning, the way your brain processes information. I kept getting something different here. So there's a lot of awareness coming up of who we are, how we want to connect. And I feel like many folks are going to embrace who they really are and what they really enjoy and value, and explore, lots of exploring here, and seeing what is working for me, what isn't, and what can I solidify and exude a little bit of spice, zest, intellectual interest, stimulation, and growth. So you all, overall, these are the major themes associated with Jupiter and Mercury. And I mentioned some too with the psychic. I wanted to say, of course, I feel like there's going to be greater interest as well in themes relating to divination, occult, astrology, esoteric studies, metaphysical, things of that nature, things that are hidden. And you may want to grow that, expand that. You may feel a calling to consult with people that offer these services, to work with people more in the spiritual realm, but also too in a very practical way with Gemini and bridging those two areas. Comment down below, let me know what house is Jupiter in Gemini transiting, and what have you experienced in previous cycles that you think may happen. I'd love to hear, comment down below. Otherwise, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I will see you soon. Let's get started with the all signs. Quick note, I use whole sign house systems, Hellenistic techniques, and I'm an intuitive astrologer. We're going to start with Aries. Aries, sun, moon, rising. Just a quick reminder, because I'm using rising signs, when I say this, it'll be the first house. So if your sun or moon is in another house, just know that some of the themes may be relevant, but some of the topical significations may be a little bit different. Okay, my Aries, this transit, Jupiter and Gemini, is going to ingress into your third house of Gemini. This deals with local neighborhood, local community, aunts, uncles, relatives of that nature, cousins, siblings, learning, especially primary school or community-oriented, travel, short distance, but any travel, topics around divination, astrology, occult, metaphysics. There is going to be perhaps more interaction. I feel like this transit is going to allow you to really get to know your local community, your local neighborhood, perhaps get to interact more with people. You may meet a variety of people that may support you in these themes, in mercurial themes. You may want to connect more and see that you are wanting to join things that are community-based. So these can be obviously virtual, because this house also rules virtual platforms, social media, etc. But I also feel in real life person events. Some of you may actually peel yourself away from more digital, virtual oriented interactions and communications and start going into your local environment and saying, I want to meet people, I want to make friends, I want to teach, demonstrate, go to school, or learn here. I also feel like those of you that are interested in astrology, if you're watching this, or even want to study it, this is actually a perfect opportunity in transit where you may feel that itch to finally say, I'm ready. I'm ready to take a course. I'm ready maybe to consult an astrologer, maybe in my neighborhood, maybe in person or virtual. I'm ready to get guidance and to start or pursue this path. It could be other forms of divination, metaphysical, or esoteric topics, anything along those lines. Communication is a big factor here for any of you that do work online, especially with this transit. You may see it expand, explode. So if you've just started a social media platform, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, or Twitter, any other platform I didn't mention, a blog, a website, and you are wanting to create something out of it for pleasure or personal, I could see that expanding and growing. And this is another tool that you could add, whether it's for your personal pleasure, your hobby, or for a business. And I just want to say I'm not paying attention to any of the current transit planets because obviously they will not be there throughout the entire year. But I feel like as we enter, you have the Sun, Venus, and obviously Jupiter in this house all together at the time of its ingress. And they are all co-present and I would say closely conjoined one another by just a few degrees. So I feel like this could really help you get something off the ground. In other words, start something new, a new project. Third house themes, a new course of study. Some of you may be wanting to move to another neighborhood or enter a new neighborhood or community environment or simply get to know your environment and start a new project relating to communication, maybe fomenting your public speaking skills and taking a course on that, or getting yourself out there and practicing, like doing YouTube and just putting yourself out there. Some of you may involve or work with family, like uncles, aunts, siblings, in some of these efforts. With Jupiter and Venus together, there's a focus on pleasure, of having fun, of joy as we enter this transit. So some of you may be wanting to examine different ways you can start having fun and integrating that. Maybe look at Groupons or different events, calendar events that enable you to enjoy some of these themes and activities in your local environment. Some of you, even though I'm just getting, it could be more ninth house, but I feel too, some of you may want to create something longer term. So you may do blog posts or create videos, but connect it to something bigger, like potentially writing a book in the future, maybe doing speaking circuits or public, those public talks. What are those people that talk a lot? Motivational speakers, teaching as well. With Jupiter and Venus, I see that big time. I also get self-care. Mercury is the natural ruler of Gemini. And take a look where Mercury is in your chart because it'll give you more information. But with the significations of Jupiter and Venus here, I feel like mental activities could come into play, something to stimulate you. So some of you may want to integrate different forms of self-care, like keeping yourself mentally active, puzzles, learning a language, Sudoku, anything that allows your brain to be challenged. I also feel like at the same time, because this house is active up here and stimulating your mental landscape and your mind, forms of self-care that help de-stress and diffuse anything that comes up where you're thinking a lot would also be helpful, especially with Jupiter and Venus co-present together at the time of this ingress. They're conjunct. So some of you may want to start a meditation routine. This would be perfect. Meditation could be, I would say, breath work, some type of body scan or somatic work, something that allows you to be mindful or present as you engage in some of these mercurial activities, which can use more energy than you are generally used to, but while also balancing that out. My Aries, I hope this has helped. Taurus. This isn't a full moon. This transit, Jupiter and Gemini, is happening in your second house of income, finances, values, material possessions, and what you do. And there with Gemini, I feel like this could be the year where some of you create various income streams and you check out where your Mercury is at, and also Virgo, who's also ruled by Mercury, because that could give you more information on how you can utilize and connect this to your second house themes. But I feel like there may be a focus on increasing or diversifying your income streams changing of values too. You may be undergoing a shift right now of exploring, who am I? Where is it that I want to maybe put my energy or potentially build into, and exploring a variety of different options here with how you bring in your income. Some of you may pick up an additional hobby. You may want to, what are they called? Do side hustles or bring in some other alternative way of a main income to bring in simply more or generate more. I also feel like connecting with others and potentially collaborating could be another way to bring in your income, and fine-tuning this. Because Mercury is the ruler here of Gemini, I feel like anything to do with budget, your finances, and actually saying it's time, like an upgrade, revamping that is going to help you in the long run. Because with Jupiter in here, you may find that you receive more income, more money. At the same time, you may find that you're spending it as well. Because there's a mutable energy here where you may find yourself spending on little things, you know, when those little things add up. And then at the end of the month, you're like, crap. I feel like this transit is going to highlight your finances. So this may be the year where you find either a digital money tracker, an app, or order a budget planner where you take stock of where you are right now, where you want to go, how you want to use your funds, especially if it concerns self-care. We have Venus here conjunct Jupiter, so there could be a need for indulgence, for creating like sinking containers, as they call them, or separate little savings or containers where you can say, okay, every month I'm going to give myself $50 so I can do whatever I want. I can go play, I can get a pedicure, I can get a massage, I can buy books, whatever it is that brings you joy, particularly mercurial themes. It could have to do with banking, travel, commerce, communication, self-investment, like learning and growing, where you may want to set up a fund. And this could be something new for some of you, but I feel like this is going to allow you to manage your funds in a different way. Some of you may be interested in diving deeper into the money psychology. Money psychology, your beliefs around money, why you do what you do, and maybe work with a group, potentially a coach, or maybe those money banking institutions that have money webinars, money trainings, so you can not only learn how to manage your money, but learn more about what it means, especially in the season that you're at. If you want kids, how to plan for that, how to plan for their schooling, retirement, how to put more into maybe investing, how to save for big things like a car, a home, etc. There's a big focus here on being more conscious about it, but there's also a lot of energy about having fun with it. That's why I feel like there's an intentionality you may go into saying, okay, if my income increases, that means you may be spending more. So just something to be careful of, because I can see that happening where it's called, I think, lifestyle creep. You earn more money or you start getting more income and then you're spending more. And you may be wondering, where's it going? So this is a perfect transit for many of my Tauruses to take stock and empower yourselves by saying, okay, I'm not going to let my money control me. I'm going to control it, but also make space for what brings me joy. Venus is here as well. So again, it's about having fun and feeling good about it and spending your money on things that may contribute to your investment. Some of you may want to, at the start of this transit, I'll say, particularly with Venus conjunct Jupiter, but they share very similar significations. There's going to be a whole energy of really investing your money in ways that are going to pay you big dividends. So personal growth, self-investment. I could see therapy too, especially in the second, 8th house axis. Therapy, healing, anything with body work, material possessions too. Some of you may be looking at getting quality items and minimalizing and or expanding in your home. Yep. I hope this has helped, my Tauruses. Thank you so much for being here. Geminis. This transit, Jupiter and Gemini, is happening in your first house of self-expression, vitality, life force energy. This could be your career occupation as well. father figures, and who you are as a being. This also has to do with your health and vitality and your appearance and body. So the spotlight's on you, my Jupiters, especially Jupiter risings in the first house, Jupiter, sun, and moons. Just check out where this is happening in the house itself. And so I feel like you may experience a larger than life, more like being pushed in the spotlight, where there's a focal point on you. You may feel the need, particularly with Jupiter here, to do more. I'm seeing a lot of eating, because we have, at the start of this ingress, Jupiter conjunct Venus. And both of them are very indulgent, love the finer things in life, love to have fun, pleasure, joy. And so be careful, especially with Jupiter, because Venus will eventually carry on into Cancer soon. But be careful during this transit of doing too much, taking on too much, perhaps overcommitting, especially when it comes to the pleasures in life, overindulging. So you all know what your indulgences are. For some folks, it could be overdoing it in social commitments. It could be overdoing it with food. It could be overdoing it in terms of anything that affects your life force energy, your vitality, your soul essence. Because I feel like burnout could happen, and there's a balance that's needed. But this is also a time to really up your self-care and what that means to you. Ask yourself, what do I need in this season of my life? What would be especially helpful? What would feel good right now? Maybe you want to start a new fitness routine, or connect to other people, like in a gym, in a workout environment, in a program, or connect to people in some mastermind or some group where you focus on your health, your vitality. It could be like an energy circle, a healing circle, a moon circle, insert. Some people say woman circle, goddess circle, a circle of any kind focused on health and on connection and on taking care of yourself. Some of you, I feel, could be expanding your knowledge, going back to school, simply because you want to pivot to a new career. I could see that happening. New opportunities are going to come the more that you take care of yourself too. So if you're feeling on the lower end of maybe contributing or providing, take note, because I feel like how you feel is going to strongly impact what you are wanting and able to receive. I also feel for some of you that I'm getting romance here, dating. For any of you that are interested in that sector or wanting to simply explore and have fun or even connect with friends, this is another opportunity for the coming year where I feel like it's important to balance and to manage that. I just feel like it could easily, the balance, the scales could teeter. For any of you wanting to have kids, I keep seeing something about kids here. If you're interested in that, some of you may be preparing yourself in the future, like getting your health ready, maybe working out, taking supplements, getting health medical checkups, and working on your healing to prepare for that stage, whether it's joining up with someone or having kids. I feel like that could be happening for the year ahead. Okie dokes. Thank you so much, my Geminis. My Cancers, this transit Jupiter in Gemini is happening in your 12th house of self-undoing. It could be solitary confinement, working behind the scenes. It could be also to the subconscious, or working through anything past life, or with psychology like therapy. Also large animals like farm animals, if any of you have that. This also includes travel, especially foreign travel. So I feel like the coming year with Jupiter in the 12th house here, some of you are going to be working on a deeper level when it comes to your spirituality. You may be consulting a variety of modalities to help you connect with yourself, get to know yourself. It could be virtual, where you can do this in your own time in a safe space, or connecting with a group behind the scenes, kind of like, it could be 12-step programs, but I'm getting more maybe therapy one-on-one, or with those support groups where you meet people, or even groups like in meetups or clubs where people say, hey, let's connect. Recovering narcissists, or recovering from narcissism, I should say, or former workaholics, or I was burned out from work, and you meet, and there's a healing element happening here. I also feel like many of you may retreat from the world, but it's almost, you know, the magical world of, I'm hearing magical world of Disney, the Harry Potter people. I'm getting Harry Potter. You retreat, and it looks from the outside like there's nothing going on in your life, but from the inside, it's enriched. So you may create your own bubble of excitement that allows you to take care of your inner child, that allows you to enrich your mind, but to also heal and to take care of yourself through those practices. Meditation is coming through big time, breath work, mindfulness, anything having to do with the mind and the body, and connecting those together. Hypnotherapy as well. I'm getting a focus here on sleep, especially with Venus here and Jupiter. Some of you may be shopping for a bed. Some of you, I have to say, that drive around for a long time on your own, or you commute a lot, because Gemini, ruled by Mercury, rules cars. And in the 12th house, there could be a lot of time where you're by yourself. Some of you may be shopping for either adornments, decor, or changing things up in your car, providing more support, like those pillows, lumbar pillows, or you're getting a new vehicle or some mode of transportation that's going to support you. Some of you may be working with animals. I also get children behind the scenes, where you could volunteer or work, or simply be a part of that space where you may be working on inner child work, but also supporting others. I see children and animals happening here for some of you, volunteering at sanctuaries, animal shelters, because a lot of times in these times where you're spending alone time or healing, or even working on healing yourself, because the 12th house also rules hardships, illnesses, and troubles, you could surround yourself with energies that are very loving, compassionate, supportive. Generally children, when they're behaving, but children have that type of energy, and animals. So if any of you are wanting to pursue an alternative modality, volunteering, and working with the big ones, equines, therapy, like horse therapy, working with farm animals, livestock, and just sanctuaries in general is coming through here. There's a sense too to get your spiritual stuff in order. If any of you haven't created a spiritual routine, or it's in need of a shakeup, this is going to be the perfect opportunity, especially with Gemini here, or actually Jupiter here, to think about what will keep you feeling safe, secure, but also that allows you to communicate and connect to the cosmos, to yourself, to your spiritual team. I also expect for many of you to open up to new psychic gifts, to strengthen the ones you have, and perhaps to start communicating in different levels, what I've mentioned in the main themes of this video. Thank you so much, my Cancers. Okay, my Leos. This transit Jupiter in Gemini is happening in your 11th house of patrons, allies, supporters, friends, uplifters. This is a good luck house as well. And there's a general, I get like really busy. Some of you may feel called to reinvigorate or expand your network. In other words, you may be meeting a crap ton of people here. Take a look at where Mercury is in your chart, because that'll give you even a more definitive flavor of how that is going to support the 11th house. Also, you have Virgo, ruled by Mercury, in the 2nd house too. So this could affect your income. You may be meeting a lot of people that you could collaborate with that could help boost your income. But I want to say too, with the people, with Gemini here in the 11th, I could see you guys traveling more, meeting people through your travels, attending more events. It doesn't have to be necessarily network, but with this house, I do feel like there could be work-related events and also personal pursuits where you connect with people, they become friends, they may be supporters of you in your line of work, study, or whatever it is you do, and people that generally support you in your group community networks, advocacy groups. It could be social movements. So you may find that your community grows in a different way and it diversifies, particularly with Jupiter here. You may find yourself interacting with people that are more diverse, that are very different, maybe from other cultures, other belief systems, ages as well. Youthful, these could be more youthful people that you haven't tapped into. But I feel like these are going to be positive people that are going to help you. Take a look at your natal Jupiter as well. Jupiter also rules your 5th house of Sagittarius and your 8th house of Pisces. So take a look at your 5th house too, because transit Jupiter will be in your 11th house and it rules your 5th house. So in some of the pleasures, creative projects that you do, if any of you are interested in love, romance, or beginning to date, there's a connection here where you may meet people. Sometimes, you know, you go on a date or you go out with someone and you're just not feeling it, but it could turn into a professional tie or a friend. Things like that happen, or you meet someone while you are engaged in a hobby, 5th house themes, something creative. Maybe you attend a workshop and you meet someone who knows someone in what you want to do or what you want to pursue, or they just become a supporter or an ally of sorts. This is what I'm seeing happening. So follow your lead, follow what is calling to you to explore. Get in touch with people that are different than you and shake things up, because I feel like that's going to have a positive impact on your 2nd house of income and earning, your 5th house, and also your 8th house. I don't know if it'll happen with this transit, but I feel like for some of you, it could lead some of these people you meet down the road in either the coming year or in the next few years, it could develop into more. My Leos, thank you so much for being here. Virgos, my Virgos, this Jupiter in Gemini transit is happening in your 10th house of career, occupation, public legacy, your reputation, your image, what you do out in the world that's visible, and your artha, where you put your energy. So if you're not working and you're like, hey, I'm a student, I'm retired, it's simply what you do and how people see you, what position you're in right now. So, wow. So Jupiter in here, new opportunities for growth. Some of you could be elevating. I get lateral moves here in Gemini. So you could possibly, if those of you are working right now, could go into a lateral position. It could be a promotion, but I sense it's more horizontal. So you could be moving to another position within your company. For those of you that want to grow, you may be exploring different options within the field that you're in, or elevating in what you do. So going up, particularly if it includes interfacing with the public, communicating, kind of like being a spokesperson, like the face of a campaign, a division, a company, where you may talk a lot because of the Gemini themes. This could include being a lead, a supervisor, a manager, director, senior director, VP, any of those type of positions, but one that's also on the ground. So interacting with people. With Gemini here, some of you there's several themes that are coming up. It's going to vary for everyone. Some of you may be exploring new opportunities in work or simply studies or what it is you want to do. You could be volunteering or putting your energy. It could be in mathematics, in accounting, bookkeeping, transportation, trade, communications, think teaching, professorship, academic, philosopher. I feel religion too. Also astrology, divination, occult. Some of you may be exploring or getting off the ground, potentially, a business or trying something different. I also feel like some of you may be traveling a lot. There could be a move. You're exploring maybe different places, or you're simply, I keep getting backpacking, road tripping, moving about. So you may be on a sabbatical or taking a sabbatical during this time, or taking time to travel. It could be for study abroad, it could be for learning, but I feel like it's infused with what you are doing now in life. This is opposing your 4th house of home. Some of you are going to move because of opportunities that come up with your career sector. I feel strongly many of you are going to, I'm getting side hustles become businesses. So if you are trying to set something off right now, I feel like this transit is going to offer you the opportunity to practice, and it'll evolve, it'll expand, and this will be the perfect opportunity to get that off the ground, particularly with the conjunction with Jupiter and Venus here in your 10th house together. Both talk of pleasure, of fun, of joy, and this is about doing something, putting your energy into a passion that you are truly excited about. So if any of you are like, I'm ready to do something different, you may feel like you're done where you're at. So some of you are going to leave your job as a result, but start a new one. You could leave or change your career, your occupation, what it is that you do. As a result, that could change where you live. 4th house topics. Mercury rules Gemini, and it also rules your 1st house of self. So your identity is also shifting during this time. It could be a result of what it is you're studying, where it is you want to go and pursue, and how you are changing too. Because when you change, your values change, who you are, your expression, your identity. And that could affect what it is that you do. So some of you, your identity is changing throughout this profession to either meet this new identity, this new version of you. Again, you could be graduating from something and entering the workforce, changing jobs or career, or retiring. And so this is affecting 1st house issues of self-expression, identity. You're changing. This transit is going to have a big impact on you. Jupiter transit is obviously in the 10th house. And I think I just said that weird. Take a look at your natal Jupiter, because it also rules over your 4th house and your 7th house of partnerships. So this transit could bring a lot of people here. 7th house rules over relationships, potential marriage partners, contracts. So for any of you that are starting a business, this could also be a fruitful time to connect to people. Potential clients too, that's what 7th house rules over. And with the 4th house too. So your angles are activated, which are huge. These are big changes that are happening for my Virgos during Jupiter's transit. And of course, if you have any points or planets here, further activations, because they're going to have an impact. Obviously, the collective right now, it's blank in Virgo and in Sag. But in Pisces, we have Saturn and Neptune. Some of you, for any of you that are interested in fomenting a romantic relationship, I feel like that could happen unknowingly through the work sphere or through a professional sphere where you may not even realize it, but it evolves. You know, when you just meet people and you don't think anything of it, kind of like that. There's a lot of letting go here. 4th house, I get. A lot of releasing for the 4th house. And it's going to help you. Many of you are putting yourself out there probably for the first time in a long time with Jupiter transiting your 10th house. So there's a main focal point of being seen. I get travel too. Some of you are going to be traveling locally or just traveling more or being busy, like busy bee energy. It could be because your job entails it, you're freelancing, you're working for yourself, and you're moving about, or travel is part of that energy. Same with communication. I keep getting a lot of information for you guys. Any of you that want to just start, whether personally or professionally, some type of platform where you express or share your thoughts, particularly your knowledge with Gemini here. This is a great time to do it. Supportive energy to just create and get going and put yourself out there. That's taking the leap of faith with Jupiter in here. My Virgos, I hope this has helped. Libras, this transit Jupiter in Gemini is happening in your 9th house of higher education, spirituality, religion, adventures, divination, occult, metaphysics. It also includes science, spaceships, aliens, higher learning, publishing, wisdom. With Gemini here, some of you are going back to school. Could be formal education, like higher education, higher learning, university, college, or some type of diploma program. Some of you are graduating during this time or wrapping up your final year. There's also travel here that I see, particularly long distance, but with the 9th and 3rd house axis, it's not defined. The travel isn't always defined in terms of geography or kilometers or miles by the ancient astrologers. So generally, we see longer distance travel, but that could be relative because that could be another state, it could be a country right next door that's not far, especially if you're bordered. So again, travel is on the radar. You may be exploring and feel an adventure, a thirst. You know when you just feel restless and you're like, I'm ready to do something or go. Follow that. Some of you may want to road trip. I could see that happening because Gemini rules over cars. So lots of road trips, using transportation to get there. Obviously planes, but trains, transportations like buses, cars. I'm getting that type of energy of exploration too. With Venus here conjunct, I should say, Jupiter, you may also meet at the start of this cycle a lot of people, females, but in particular, a lot of friendships that are going to be supportive in the coming years. Some of you are going back or resuming studies, any studies, but particularly, I would say, divination, astrology, metaphysics. It could be banking, mathematics, travel, anything to do with travel. Social media marketing, writing, publishing, teaching. Any of those skills I feel like are being highlighted as well. Lots of movement coming up for Libras. I also feel like because of the opportunities you are going to be presented with and the experiences that you'll encounter, your philosophy, your beliefs, your worldviews, and even your spiritual beliefs, you may start to undergo some type of change here, embracing something new or different throughout your explorations and during this time. So by the end of the transit, you may feel like you have a whole new level of understanding when it comes to that particular theme, if you're learning or studying, or simply your spirituality and connecting to something larger. With the 3rd and 9th house and a few others, I got increased openness to certain psychic gifts. I feel like some of you are going to open up to new ways of receiving communication and communicating in general, especially when it comes to extrasensory communication. Remote viewing and telepathy are huge here with the 9th house in Jupiter. Some of you are also going to finally connect to some type of teacher, mentor, guide, coach. I could see therapists too in a different way that may form some type of foundation for you that kind of leads or guides you throughout this journey. It could be an ending. So some of you that are wrapping up could be working maybe with an advisor, a teacher, a professor, something like that. A priest, pastor. Okie dokes, my Libras, thank you so much. My Scorpios, this transit, Jupiter in Gemini is happening in your 8th house of grief, anxiety, vulnerability, intimacy, transformation, and changes. Other people's money and resources. So this could be another spouse or income from other places like inheritances, alimony, child support, taxation, lawsuits, legal stuff is also here, and also any grief as it relates to hardships. So with Gemini going in here, I feel like this is going to be a transit where you may be itching or feeling the need to resume some type of healing practice or up it up. amp it up, I should say. Because of the themes related to Gemini, Mercury ruled, I feel like some of you are going back to therapy or have considered it. You may be feeling it's time. I want to restart that, resume that, and connect to a therapist or a healer, someone in the divinatory fields, because Mercury was a psychopomp who fluttered easily throughout Earth and the underworld and, of course, the heavens. So therapy, healing, working on grief, loss, and change are going to be key themes here. Learning to let go and release and surrender. Some of you may receive, especially with Jupiter transiting here, something unexpected. I'm just completing this transit so I can share with you personally. I'm a Libra rising, and of course it happened in Taurus. But in Gemini, you've got themes around finances. Gemini rules over money, so you could be getting money from unexpected places. In my experience living in the US, I got a lot of different lawsuits. You know those class action lawsuits that came through, where all of a sudden you are being compensated $20 because you apparently ordered those chickens that now there was something wrong with them. They're really off the beat things that come in, and I saw a lot of that. So some of you may be experiencing that, where you're getting unexpected money, royalties too, if any of you have written books, theses, dissertations, anything of that nature. Inheritances as well. This could be also with child support, particularly your alimony, back pay, retroactive, that could be coming through. I also feel like there could be additional income sources, streams, perhaps with someone you're partnering in business, a spouse, or something that comes through unexpectedly. Reimbursements. I keep hearing reimbursements from travel. You know, when something happens and you're not able to take a trip, I feel like for some of you, this could come back in the form of something bigger. Because we have Gemini here, which is a double-bodied mutable energy, there's a lot of fluidity and change. So some of you are really learning to embrace the unknown, to embrace the constancy of change, and to get very comfortable with that here during your time. So a lot of, I'm getting grief, but that could be expressed in many ways. Things in the past that you had to let go of. They could be relationships, the loss of people, fears, worries. That's going to be a topic I feel you are going to master when this transit is over. My Scorpios, I hope this has helped. My Sages, this transit, Jupiter and Gemini, is happening in your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, marriage, contracts, business contracts, I should say, open enemies, and pleasures. So for many of you, this could be a time of interacting, increasing, and experiencing an inflow of people in your life because of the mutability and the rapidity of this air sign. You may find that your life feels like a revolving door. Think back. I said this in the main video, but look back at the previous cycles, which I've included with the dates of Gemini, of this Jupiter and Gemini transit, and you'll see similar themes, because I get a revolving door where you may feel like people are leaving, coming, leaving, and relationships are going quickly, and you may be interacting with people in and out. I also feel like you may be interacting with new, diverse people that you haven't before, people from different backgrounds, people of all ages, particularly youthful people. Right now, as we start this transit, you've got Jupiter and Venus in a conjunction, so that could bring in a confluence of different genders. It may matter for some people, more women or men, doesn't matter. But I feel like too with Gemini here, you may experience or be open to dating people you haven't dated before, befriending people you haven't before, or connecting with people that you haven't before. In other words, think of the type of people you used to connect or you do connect to now. And they may be people that are very different. Same thing if any of you are connecting in a romantic way, you may find that you're open to different sorts of relationships. And this is something I talked about in the general themes for Jupiter and Gemini. Polyamory, dating people from different backgrounds, different genders. even reflecting, processing what love means to you. I also get a lot of platonic energy here, where you may find people that connect with you and who you are at this time. I get a lot of fresh new energies, but very different energies than what you're used to. So Mercury rules over Gemini, and Gemini also rules your 12th house. So these may be people from other cultures. They could be foreign people that share a past life. You may have some type of resonance. Oh, excuse me. I looked at Scorpio. X that out. Virgo, ruled by Mercury, 10th house. So you have a square here. And if you have any planets, pay attention there too. So some of the people you meet, these could be people that are part of your business. They could be clients coming in to support your business, your work. People that you're meeting at work that become friends, and vice versa, because sometimes those populations increase. Also take a look, because Jupiter's transiting the 7th house. You have Sagittarius, your 1st house, ruled by Jupiter, and also Pisces, your 4th house. So those areas are also going to be activated. So you are also changing as well. And take a look at what planets you have in the 1st house, if any, because Jupiter will aspect those too. And so I feel like this is going to be a time where you are also reformulating who you are, changing perhaps your values, your identities, how you express yourself as a result. The people that you interact with, the friends, clients, business collaborators, relationships, they're also changing as well. Okay, my Sagittarius, I hope this has helped. My Capricorns, this transit Jupiter and Gemini is happening in, where is it? In your 6th house of hard work, labor, sacrifice, service to others. This is also the house of illness, potential challenges, and hardships. But also one, if you ascribe to it, of day-to-day routines, which in Hellenistic astrology is usually 3rd house, and of self-care, generally because you're responding to anything that's affected your health, your vitality, mental and emotional state. So generally this is one where you may focus on what can help me get back to a state where I feel good. So Jupiter is a benefic planet coming into the 6th house, which is great because I feel like it's going to help you feel better. It's going to inject something that will help you feel more energized, more uplifted. You may resort to alternative modes, perhaps spiritual modalities for healing. Some of you may consult with an astrologer, look at medical astrology in particular. It could be self-care too, focused on the body. I could see also connecting to energy work to help heal the body. I'm getting some of you that are entering or want to enter healing professions. This may be a time where you also engage with that through learning, but also through yourself by connecting to other healers. There's many different types of body work, energy. Working with a healer in terms of communication. It could be a coach or astrologer as well. Be careful because Jupiter does magnify too, so there's also a need to be cautious of overdoing it here, of potentially committing too much, whether it's helping others or taking on too much during your day-to-day life and burning yourself out. I feel like it's going to be really important to find some type of modality that you can integrate in your practice, daily practice, I'll say, that'll allow you to rest, especially your mind. Some of you may be working a lot with your hands. There's a lot of kinesthetic and like application happening here where you're doing a lot. Be careful of consuming or eating anything that could potentially affect your body. Because I'm hearing poison. So if any of you are traveling, or if any of you are opening up to new cuisines or trying new things, just be cautious and pay attention to anything that makes you feel off kilter, off balance, that doesn't make you feel grounded. Because I feel like there could be a tendency with Jupiter transiting here, to feel that almost escapism type of vibe, where what you may do to help yourself, to support yourself, maybe it's a healing practice, or even something you ingest, that it doesn't sit with your body well. I also feel like this upcoming transit, especially as you start it, it's going to be focused on how you can better take care of yourself in ways that feel good. So even if you have a lot of work to do, if you're busy, if you feel like everything is all over the place, it's allowing yourself to pace, to find ways not to burn out, to pace yourself. Meditation has been coming up big with this transit. So trying out different forms of mindfulness, of breath work, of relaxation, which it doesn't have to be meditation. You could be doing anything else. Okie dokes, my Capricorns, I hope this has helped. Aquarius. This transit Gemini and Jupiter in Gemini is happening in your 5th house of creativity, of love, romance, dating, sex, fertility, gambling, entertainment, sports. So I'm getting a lot of little kid energy. I feel like during this year, you may find that you may want to connect to other people or learn something and do it with other people. In other words, kind of like knitting groups, crochet groups as an example. I also feel like you may be connecting to people to discuss more things that you love or enjoy doing as hobbies and pastimes or pleasures. So joining groups or class, like artwork, I feel like it has to do with speaking too. I'm getting stamp collection, numismatics, stamp collections, speaking, maybe Toastmasters or public speaking. If any of you want to hone that, I'm getting a lot of board games, board game nights, those types of cafes, pubs where people join in and have fun and they congregate, but they're playing something. I also am getting sports leagues. For any of you that are ready to maybe get back into a workout or want to join something communal, a sports league or something at the recreation center could pop up during this year. For any of you that are interested in dating, this could be an opportunity to try something new that you haven't. I'm getting several things. Dating apps. There could be new dating apps or a new way of approaching it. Some of you may potentially find other ways to meet people through what it is that you enjoy doing, through your creative projects and aspirations where you're going to meet people. And with Gemini, there's a strong focus on intellectual and social stimulation. So through the process of learning, you may meet someone and engage, and potentially that may become a romance or a friendship. Some of you may be exploring here too, going out with different people, exploring who you are, exploring sex, what that means to you, exploring love and romance, and potentially opening up to different types of relationships, not necessarily looking for long-term or committal, but simply exploring. I just want to have fun, explore, see what I like, what resonates, what doesn't. It's not for everyone. Some of you too, especially with Jupiter here in Gemini, kids. I get a lot of kids because I see rabbits. Some of you may be planning to have kids or want to have kids or are expecting kids, or you're preparing for it and may find out at the end of the transit that you're going to have a kid. There's an expansion of fertility here because Jupiter rules over fertility. So if you are with your partner and he's male and you're female and you don't want kids, just I would caution using protection. But I feel like you could also bring in kids any other way too. Adoption, because again, Gemini here, and take a look at where your Mercury's at. But I feel like with Jupiter here, this could also expand little kid energy, having kids, or being around more kids. You may find yourself in what you're doing, maybe some of the pastimes that you're doing, you are engaged or around more children. I also feel like some of you may opt to date younger people or more youthful people, people that are just fun, outgoing, curious. My Sagittarius, I hope this has helped. My Pisces, this transit Jupiter in Gemini is happening in, where is it? In your 4th house of home, ancestry, roots, family, your lineage. Also one of secrets, mysteries, taboos, the occult. This is the subterranean of the natal chart. So with Gemini here in the 4th house, with Jupiter here in the 4th house, some of you may be connecting or reconnecting or spending more time with siblings. Could be children too. It could be brothers. I get community though in all genders here. Or expanding to include those. You may be moving in with them. They could be coming in with you. You could be rooming up with them or expanding in some way. Some of you also may become very interested in researching your family tree. Ancestry, genealogy, lineage, anything to do with that. Where you may start it or anytime throughout the transit to get to know more about your family, where you came from, patterns. Some of you too, because to me, some of the topics deal with purchasing homes or expanding. You may be moving into a bigger home or purchasing additional property that'll be part of your home. You could say home estate, your lineage, just part of the family line. I also am getting an enrichment here where you may be adding more to your home that allows you to connect more to mental stimulation, social interaction, where there's more people. So this could be having planned family date nights where you get together with family or whoever you live with and have or create opportunities to connect, to have fun, to enjoy one another, to essentially do family. Go out more, spend time with one another, get to know one another. There's a lot of fun energy happening here. Some of you too, if you're wanting to purchase a home or real estate, you could get approved for a loan. I'm getting banking information here. You can get approved for a loan, receive a loan unexpectedly or a figure that could help you purchase your property or engage in renovations, updates, or any of that that you have to do with the home or purchase anything, any equipment, decor, etc. The 4th house also rules secrets, mysteries, taboos, occult. Some of you may be finding out secrets because Mercury too is a trickster and likes to dig and is curious as hell. So some of you, again, this goes with genealogy, but during this transit, you may be digging for information, or it could be for medical, financial, or simply just to know as part of healing. But I also feel like some of you are learning more about who you are, where you came from, through the study of some of these topics, divination, astrology, occult, particularly when it comes to family dynamics. So you may be interested in, family, generational type of astrology, karmic astrology, evolutionary, where you're looking at generational patterns to heal yourself. Okie dokes. You guys have an amazing start to this transit. Comment down below. Let me know what you're expecting, what you're seeing. Otherwise, thank you so much. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and support me. I would truly appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I'll see you soon.